Hey guys, on this episode of High and Small Engine Repair, we're going to be looking at this vertical shaft 12 horsepower engine for like a riding mower, an older riding mower that requires much more power for blades and driving and everything, unlike just spinning a blade for a push mower. I was told that it ran a long time ago. It's been sitting outside. It's, from what it looks to be about like an 80s or 90s engine. And I got it for $20. So we're going to be looking at it, and I'm going to be showing you what to look for when you're buying an engine, whether to fix it or just one you need to something you need to use around the house and stuff, and you don't want to have to work on it. And we're just going to be looking at like a health check of the engine. I don't know if we're going to be running it today, but just looking it over, and I'm going to be showing you guys again what to look for when you're buying something like this. So let's get right into it. Now, just so you know, this is just the pressure washer stand that is sitting on. This is just like my engine stand, just to hold it for right now. But first off, we're going to look at the oil. So this one has a screw type oil dipstick. Some of them you just turn like a quarter turn. It has a little bit of oil on it, as you can see. Let's turn it over here. Not close to full though. And that is because out of the muffler here, it was sitting on its side, and a lot of oil came out of the muffler. And typically that's not really a terrible thing. Obviously it's not supposed to come out of there, but when an engine's sitting for so long, if a valve is open and oil is going through that, which is very likely, or sometimes it's just the rings, when they're cold and they've been sitting for so long, they'll lose their seal, and oil will slowly seep past it, and it'll come out of the exhaust or out of the intake. But a main thing that you're looking for when you do this is if it doesn't have any oil in it. Sometimes it could be rusted in that oil. Helps keeps metal from rusting and things like that. If there's water in there because it has been sitting out there, sometimes it's difficult to tell whether there's water or anything in there like that, but definitely will drain the oil on something that you know has been sitting outside, or just drain it anyway, because after you run it, you want to drain it, get all the sludge at the bottom of the thing, and then you drain it out because you don't know what's in there. Not only water, but there could be gas in there, but this one's been sitting for so long that even if there was gas, I'm not really worried about it. But if you go up and you buy one that's running, and you want to make sure that it's a healthy engine, take the oil dipstick out and you can smell it, and it sounds kind of weird, but you'll be able to smell whether there's gas in it or not, and there should not be gas in the oil. That means that you probably have, well, it's a big thing to go through, rings or valves or head gasket or something like that. Which with this thing here, there's not much trouble to get to the head gasket, but you don't want to work on it. That's how you can kind of tell. You want to first to be able to spin it over, and this is very tight and doesn't like to spin over very well, but I've spun it over before, and it spins over, but there's kind of a clanking noise, something hitting somewhere, and I'm pretty sure it's in this cover, probably the starter or something that's engaged into the flywheel. And so you had to check for that, make sure it spins over easy. Another thing to check, if it does spin over. If it doesn't spin over, then you have a problem, and you probably should ask about it, or just, not mess with it. If it spins over, turn it back and forth kind of slowly, and see if you can feel a knocking back and forth or anything like that, because there's not supposed to be one. So if there is, then you might have a problem that you need to look into. So that's one of the first things we're going to check. Then, while you're here, before you buy an engine, you want to take this off. There are a lot of threads on this one. And this is your air breather cover and everything. And then there's, on this one, it's older, it has a air filter, doesn't just sit in here, it's got this little screw on top that holds it in. And it also has a lot of threads. Wow. Okay, now we can look inside here, look in, see what the air filter looks like. If it's oil soaked, again, because oil coming through there, you can see all the crap from years. This is air filter, like a pre-filter, or just parts of it. Normally it's a pre-filter that will be on the outside of this. It's like foam, and it will come apart. On older engines, they have, I don't have one to show you right now, but the whole air filter is just like a piece of foam, and they will crumble apart when they're old and they need to be replaced. But you would hope that the air filter is clean, and that would really give you a good sign that there's no oil in it, so all the internals are okay as far as that goes, and that that it's been replaced, as maintenance been done to it. Whoever had it really cared for the engine. While you're there, while you're getting ready to buy it, you can't really look too much into the cylinder or anything because, well, you don't have any tools or anything probably. So if you did, we're just talking about the bare minimum. You don't have anything but your hands here. Look here into the spark plug wire just a little bit. Doesn't tell you a whole lot, but you can see that it's clean in there, decently clean. It's not too corroded, so it might not be sitting for too long, and it probably has spark from that part, because sometimes it won't have spark in here, but that doesn't really tell you that much. You can look at the spark plug, and you can see, maybe if I can get it to focus, that you can't really see it very good from here, but it's a very old Champion plug in there, I believe, and that would be a sign that it hasn't been cared for so much because nobody's put a new spark plug in it or anything. But obviously, that's not a terrible thing, but if it has been replaced, if it's a newer spark plug, then you have higher hopes for it. It's probably been cared for, or it's had a problem and somebody's tried to fix it and they put a new spark plug in it. So that kind of gives you an idea there. And those are some main things you want to just check for while you're there. Obviously, if they run it for you, if it's a running engine there, then that's really good. You can look around, make sure it's not smoking any out the exhaust. If they say something about it, if it smokes when it just starts up, I don't know as I would want to mess with that. It's possible that it's a valve or something. Valve seats a lot of times go bad or something like that, and it just smokes a little, or the rings are on their way out. Sometimes I use up here, I might have some, I only have the spray version, this Berryman B12 Chem Tool. It works pretty well. You can get a pour version of it. I think I have an empty bottle up there, and you can pour it into the gas tank, and sometimes it'll just give you, it'll get all the carbon out and everything and clean it up, and maybe that'll stop it. But if you're buying something and you're paying a normal price for it, you don't want it to be smoking when you buy it. So you really want to check these things out. A lot of times, really nice person and stuff, sometimes you're like, man, they saved it for me and everything, and you need to buy it, but that's all other stuff. But as far as a healthy engine goes, that's my advice for you. Now, here I've already bought this engine. As you can see, it's at my house, so I have some tools to look at it and diagnose it, because sometimes you don't want to turn things over. If you watch a lot of car channels, you probably hear them preach this all the time. you don't want to start messing with things, pulling ropes and stuff until you know that internals are good and you're not going to hurt anything by doing it. So first off, I pulled out this spark plug here, because I talked about you won't have the tools to do it, probably while you're going to buy it. But here is the spark plug, and you can tell a lot of things by the spark plug. A lot of times, sometimes if people have bore scopes, you can, when you pull the spark plug out, you can look in the bore and see how everything looks in there. And on here, sometimes you can see if all the way around this end of the spark plug, it's really hard for it to focus. It's black. That's good. That means that that is a good sign for it, the way that it's running and everything. Really black, it would be really rich. Really white means that it's been overheated or something, probably. This in here, sometimes the little arc here that comes up and around can start to get eaten up or whatever, and that's because the way that it's running too, pinging and spark knock and all these kinds of things occur with that. You can all look it up. I might make a video on it sometime, but there's a lot of different things that spark plug can tell you as far as that goes. And also, if you notice that it's really wet in there, it could be oil and everything getting in there, which as I've shown, that has happened with that, with the oil coming out the exhaust, so it's been in there. When you're pulling it out, a lot of times, or sometimes it'll be like really hard to get out, and then sometimes you'll see rust on the threads, and that's just another sign that one thing is that it's probably been in there for longer, and also water or moisture might have gotten in there and made everything all rusty and hard to get out. So that's something you want to look for too. But once you do that, a lot of times I will if that looks good and I can spin it over by hand, like slowly, then I will just go to try and start it, put some starter fluid in it or whatever. This is obviously if your engine doesn't already run by itself, and try and get it to run, and then mess with carburetor stuff later on, and then you just get into normal things. But as far as diagnosing that stuff goes, that's about it. But you can also check for spark like that too. You're just pulling this out and putting it in there and pushing it up to the thing and getting somebody to hold it up there and look for a spark off with the spark plug. And that'll show if it's carburetor issue, a fueling issue, or if it's just it doesn't have any spark. A lot of times, these bigger engines, especially nowadays, like this, are the twin-cylinder engines, and you'll have either one over here and one over here, like a Y, or opposing each other. And then obviously you have to do that twice. And look for everything. Normally they'll have one carburetor that they share, and you just look at both little ports in the carburetor and stuff, look through all that. But this is a very simplistic engine. Even though it's bigger, it's still very simple. The carburetor is still pretty simple. There's more things to take apart in it and stuff for messing with it. But when you go and look for stuff like this, and you go and buy stuff like this, those are my tips for you. That's what I normally look for. And especially when I'm looking for quick flips and stuff, and you find a decently cheap mower or something like that runs, then you just look for how it runs. Does it go up and down? And all that kind of stuff. Just listen to it. Does it sound normal? What's wrong with it? And then there's a whole lot of different things that can cause all the different sounds that you'll hear. Like spark plugs, for example. Need a new spark plug. That I never understood until about a year back how important a spark plug is in your running. you can have like a spark plug, pull it out and clean it all up, and it looks good, and sometimes it still won't run right, and you just had to replace the spark plug. And I don't know everything about them, but I know that they're very important parts of the engine, obviously, for a gasoline engine. It's a very important part, and you have to look through that and everything. Two-stroke stuff. If you're buying like a chainsaw like I have over there, or whatever, there's different things you have to look for in that a little bit, because you can't check the oil and stuff, but a big thing you look for in them, as I don't mess with them much, but I know one thing that you look for in two-strokes is rod knocking stuff, moving it back and forth and seeing what it's got going on there, and stuff like that. There's no valves or anything, so yeah. And a lot of times you pull it over and it feels really, really easy to pull on a two-stroke. Then sometimes it's just that's how small the engines are. They really just don't have enough compression to really. It doesn't really have that much compression for you to feel it when you're pulling it. But as for bigger engines, like lawnmower engines, tiller engines, stuff like that, when you pull it over, you should feel resistance. Actually, like older engines, like older than these ones and stuff, they actually didn't have a compression rating from the factory. So the way that you tested if it had enough compression was you would turn the flywheel a certain way until it got to a compression point, and it should kick back because the piston's pushing up and there's air pushing back down on it because it doesn't want to compress. So once you let off that pressure, it should push the piston back down, and that would show you that you had compression, and you measured it and everything. I'm not exactly sure how you measured it, but that's basically the basics of it, and that's how you measured it. So you can kind of tell how much compression you have on these bigger engines like that. Even like for 3 horsepower engines and stuff, the really small ones, when you pull them, they're supposed to return. They're supposed to go back a little bit. And that's kind of how you can feel it too if you're used to pulling on a push mower and stuff. Sometimes weed eaters and stuff have the new like pull start things. I really don't like them, but it's got a spring in it, and you pull it just easy, and it's supposed to spin the engine with the spring, and then you can't really tell that much how it's doing, because it won't allow you to pull it regularly. So I don't really like those much. I guess you could tell if it spun really fast when you pulled it out, but other than that, I think that's about it for buying things like that, buying small engines and seeing if they're worth messing with and stuff. I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. I'd love to answer them and everything and talk to you about it. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it a lot. It really helps me get you more content when you subscribe and stuff to the channel. And if you could do that, that would really help me out. And it'll also show you when I have new content coming out. So it helps us both, I guess. But I thank you for watching. I hope this helped you out, and I'll see you next time.